Yep. Good.
Shalom, all the people of the Most High, to all the waywalkers out there and the strangers that sojourn with us. We are back live once again in our series, and we have a very special guest on today. We are just waiting on one more, Brother Carlos Xavier from last week, and we're waiting on him to join us. So if you would just be patient with us and give us a few moments, and we will begin.
Fine.
See here.
I think Carlos is on his way now.
Okay.
Carlos is on his way. Okay.
Yeah. He was like, starting without me, huh? Okay. See here. Okay, Carlos has said he's gonna watch the stream.
Okay.
And
all right. I got a bunch of questions written down from you that I read.
Oh yes, sir.
Yes, yeah, sir. I read those. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is Brother Carlos joining us?
No, no. Go ahead. Introduce.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. For those of you guys that are out there, and those of you guys that will join us, we are back live once again with the Honorable Sir Anthony Buzzard. Just to give you a brief bio for those of you guys that don't know, Sir Anthony Buzzard, I just was made aware of him maybe about a year or so ago. I had seen the name and read a few articles or what have you, but I didn't put a face to the name. Someone sent me a video of a debate that he did with James White and Michael Brown, I believe it was.
Years ago.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. But for those of you guys that don't know Sir Anthony Buzzard was born in England and holds a degree in modern languages, French and German from Oxford University. He holds a diploma in biblical Hebrew from the University of Jerusalem, a master's in theology from Bethany Theological Seminary. He has taught languages at the American School in London, and theology and biblical languages, Hebrew and Greek, that is, for more than 25 years at Atlanta Bible College in Georgia. He is the author of several books. He co-authored the Doctrine of the Trinity, Christianity's Self-Inflected Wound with Charles Hunting, and has published many others, including Jesus Was Not a Trinitarian, and the second recent addition to his commentary translation. So we are in for a treat today. For those of you guys that are out there, you certainly want to like the video. Go ahead, like a discussion. Go ahead, like, share, and subscribe. You want to get your pens and pads together, because this Sir Anthony here is a Unitarian apologist. In other words, he has been doing the work to proclaim the biblical Unitarian view, right? He has been putting in the work to defend the biblical Unitarian perspective of the Most High. And so for those of you guys out there, you don't want to miss this. You want to go ahead, get your pens and papers, get your so that you can take notes. If you have any questions, if Sir Anthony has the time, I don't know what his time is like. We'll get you guys questions in there as well. But with no further ado, I'll go ahead and let Sir Anthony make an introduction, and then Brother Renzo will take over from there and start with the questions.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. You're more than generous, and I'm glad you've got a site going. You're talking to the public, which is very important. I'm just a truth-seeking person. We're all of us like our parents. My father was director of naval intelligence, and my grandfather was a physician. We're doing what our genes tell us to do. To me, it's infuriating that I was in the Church of England for 20 years of my life, and I couldn't have had any discussion on any point of biblical doctrine at all. I'm not lying to you. I didn't know anything about any of this. So I'm not going to go through my whole history, but now 60 years later, that was 1955, I'm 85 years old now, I certainly have been familiar with most of these Bible doctrines. And that doesn't mean I've got it all right. So I'm listening to you also, but I do think that Jesus was a Shema reciting Jew. That's quite clear in Mark 12, but I didn't know any of that. I find that very interesting. I find this huge because one day I believe every person walking this planet is going to have to agree with Jesus. And that's huge. God wants to be recognized as who he is, the unique, unparalleled, unchallenged creator of the whole universe. And it's an astonishing universe. So that's my thesis. Is that long enough as an introduction, or what else do you want?
That's perfect, sir. That's
okay.
perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Brother Renzo, he's going to take over and host from here. He has several very important and pertinent questions in regards to Johannine Christology.
Okay.
All right. So it's on you, Brother Renzo.
All right. Right. Thank you, Brother Sam. All right, Anthony, what we want to do today is we want to get the perspective on John's Christology. Because we all know when you discuss or have discussions with Trinitarians, you cannot get away from John.
No, absolutely.
Yes, you would have to discuss John, and
absolutely
started from the first chapter. So yeah, we want to get a different perspective. What I like to call a objective view. Which is, it leans towards Unitarianism, if you want to be objective. Towards the common interpretations, but so we're gonna get right into it.
Okay.
And John's prologue. This is the bulletproof text, quote unquote, that they go to defend the Jesus is God camps. We know that when John uses the concept of the Logos, as an active aspect of God, when he's doing creation, and we know in the Old Testament that the Logos was never seen as a person.
That's exactly right. That's a good start. So never a person. Hundreds of times not a person.
Right. So what we want to know is, why would Orthodoxy, what I would call Trinitarianism, deviate from interpreting John as how he would leave the Old Testament view of the Logos and interpret it from somewhere else, like let's say Plato.
Well, I think they've been taught that, and people are mostly not searching very much. I don't blame them necessarily. They don't have libraries, as you and I do, to have access to books and learning. So it is difficult for them. And my father used to suggest to me when I was a kid, didn't lecture to us very much, but he did say, you'll find as you grow up, lad, that most people haven't done any homework. I know that sounds a bit cynical, but I certainly had never, ever thought about John 1:1 in the 20 years that I was in the Church of England. I didn't know. But now I've thought about it for a while. It doesn't make me right. But first of all, you made the good point. Logos in the Old Testament is word. And Logos, please note, in the New Testament is the gospel. But never say gospel, always say gospel of the kingdom. Now we're sounding like Jesus. So in the beginning, God had a great plan. It was the gospel of the kingdom. So Logos is the gospel in the New Testament. It's also how God thinks, because as a man thinks, so is he, the proverb says. So you are what you think. You are what you say. So why in the world would one put a capital L on word there? That I don't understand. So don't take a capital on there and simply have word, thinking, plan, gospel of the kingdom. God had a bright idea. And that word was God himself. It wasn't another person. Theos in logos. I'm using modern Greek pronunciation because that's the way we taught it in the college. And so theos, logos, John 1:1c, that is, the Word was God himself. William's translation even has that. The Word was God himself. It wasn't another person, for goodness sake. You don't want to multiply God. That's the thing we mustn't do. So the Word was full of the wisdom and understanding of God. He is his Word. So once good theologian, I'll finish with this point, says Jesus is what that Word, little w, became. Not one-to-one equal with that Word. He's what the Word became. That self-expression of God, walked around as a human being. That's the Jesus of Nazareth, as I know him to be. Yeshua, if you want to call him his Hebrew name, but I don't make any issue out of that because I believe in the Greek scriptures. So there we are. Is that enough on that one?
Oh yes, sir. That was excellent. Okay. I don't know how you can read Isaiah 55 and 11, Psalms 33 and 4, and
right.
Psalms 18 and 30, and come up with the idea that that was a separate being alongside God, and it's clearly it's clearly saying that it's God's message.
Yes, and you mentioned Isaiah 53:11. That's my favorite text of mine. By his knowledge, and it's not by getting to know him in some sentimental way. No, by his knowledge, his instruction. The Gospel as John is full of stuff about what Jesus said. My words, my commandments, my teaching. So if there's a single point I would like to get to the public would be this. You must believe in the teaching of Jesus, the teaching of Jesus. Oh, they say, I believe he died for my sin. I get that. I know that. I know about the crucifixion and the atonement. But do you believe in the teaching of Jesus? And if you're taking notes, 1 Timothy 6:3, 2 John 7:9 says, whatever you do, don't ever give up on the teaching of Jesus. That's what we've come to. And we're learning stuff just as you are all the time.
Oh, yes, right.
Yes.
So this is we're gonna segue into
yes,
a grammatical issue.
Yes.
And I guess why can't the Jehovah's Witness translation "a God" be linguistically, and where we know theologically people would disagree, but linguistically, from a grammatical point of view, why can't they interpret the anarthus theos with an indefinite sense, like a God?
Well, you could, but you see, common sense plays a large part in meaning. If you go down to the 18th verse of John 1, you have nobody's seen God at any time. That's anarthus too. So you're going to say nobody's seen a God at any time. It's just language-wise so bad you want to scream. So if you say, well, a God, the theos or the logos was a God, then immediately you've got to say, well, what sort of person was this? It wasn't an animal. It wasn't an angel. Couldn't have been an angel because God said, no angel is ever my begotten son. You should exclude angel right away. So if you've got a pre-existent person, who is this? It couldn't be a second God. Certainly couldn't be an angel. So why would you imagine translating that as a God? I don't understand why you would even think about it, actually.
Oh yeah, good point.
Right.
Yeah, for the record, that's what I used to hold to that view.
Yes.
When I was an Arian, God, because we had examples. Now I'm speaking from a grammatical
yes, of course.
point of view. We had examples where the anarthus noun was preceded by a verb, and they put a indefinite semantic behind, like a king, a prophet.
Yes, of course.
So yes, I guess the final determinant would be context.
Absolutely, context, and particularly the fact that God never said to any angel at any time. I use this one with the Jehovah's Witnesses very respectfully. To which of the angels did God ever say at any imaginable time, ever, you're my begotten son? The answer is never. All right, that should take care of that, shouldn't it?
Oh yes, that explains. Yeah.
Then they say, well, it's an archangel, but not an angel, and you quickly say, yes, I believe a queen bee is still a bee.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So context is
yes, of course. Right.
All right. So now we're gonna go to actually we're gonna go to a Unitarian proof text. And I think this is as explicit as it gets in John 17:3.
Absolutely.
This is the high priestly prayer for
yes, of
Jesus.
course.
And he's kind of confessing to the Father that where he's asking for his glory.
Yep.
And he makes an explicit statement in verse 3. And I know Trinitarians they would try to use verse 5 as a neutralizer, but
yeah,
it doesn't work. But
a neutralizer, I like that, a neutralizer. Yeah,
but
cancel them.
Yeah, so he uses the term Father and only true God.
Yes.
And I would ask you, would those terms be interchangeable?
Oh, absolutely, because they're, as we say grammatically, in apposition. You, Sam, the organizer of this program. And you say, well, is the organizer of the program Sam? Of course. We all know that. You, Father, are I would translate it this way, you're the only one who is true God. Now, may I simply add this point? Augustine, who didn't like that text at all, you may know this, your public may not know it. Augustine said, we need to restructure that sentence. It should really be to know you, Father, and Jesus Christ, the only true God. Well, that is forgery. That is perjury. It's twisting the text. It's rewriting the Bible. You don't want to do that. So that is a purely unitary monotheistic statement in John 17:3. Most of us, I think, wake up thinking of that every morning. You, Father, are monos alitheinos theos. Again, I'm using the modern Greek pronunciation. You're defining God as the only one, monos, who is the genuine God. All other gods are false and fake compared with him.
Right. So have you heard of the it's a grammatical term in Greek. It's called a convertible proposition.
Yes, I can imagine what that might be. You've got an example?
Yeah, so you have the subject, which is the Father.
Yes.
And well, I guess in the Greek it's dei, it's an accusative. So it points to the Father. And then you have the subject, which is the only true God. So so when you have two nouns, when you have a subject and a noun, they're kind of interchangeable. It's like
absolutely. Yeah.
It's like when you say Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ and Christ is Jesus. That's also a convertible proposition. So in actuality, that kind of exhausts the title. It doesn't leave any room for anybody else.
No, but your child of two understands all of that without having. Well, I mean, I'm only suggesting sometimes the public doesn't need technicality. Just say, do you understand the only one who's true God? Yes or no? I mean, I'm a little bit scared sometimes of getting too technical, although I'm very glad that you're doing it because we need that also. But convertible topics, absolutely right. You, Father, are the only one, and you're right, it's in the accusative there as the direct object of the verb, to know you. Absolutely right. I'm glad you're doing your Greek. We teach our Greek with a modern Greek pronunciation because that's the way Greeks understand it today, and we make some friends out there in the Greek-speaking world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a strong point that
great point.
That I found that
absolutely
those terms are interchangeable, so you can't add another person. If you
no.
It would be I guess they call it a subset proposition, like John is a man. You can't say the Father is a God. You can say the Father is and the God is the Father.
No, he's the only true God.
Right.
Or monos alitheinos theos, the only genuine God. The one that goes with that, I'm sure, is in John 5:44. That they're talking there about the only God. Jews are Unitarians. One of the strongest arguments is ask any rabbi, any historian of Judaism will tell you that they never were Trinitarians. They understood the oneness of God as we're describing it here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Trinitarians, we know that they would claim that the Targums were dealing with the word memora.
Yes.
So they would claim that they were sort of proto-Trinitarians because they saw the memora as a distinct being, as Yahweh himself, and he's distinct from the Father. So you have two powers. You have the memora, his word, and you have the Father. So they would say that the memora kind of serves as a proxy for the Logos.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the memora being used
Well, I wouldn't use it because it's not in the Bible. They don't bother with it. They could have used it. I'm sure they knew what the memra was. I'm fully aware of that. But it was only heretical Judaism that imagined that was a second God. So the rabbis never accepted that. But it's not in Scripture at all, is it? Not even mentioned as memra, unless you just say it's the word. I'm sure they all knew about that, but they could have easily written that word memra in Greek letters and called it the memra. But they didn't bother. So if they didn't bother, why am I going to bother? Is my question there.
Right.
That's my point.
Yeah. So, and they would say that John sort of mimics. He sort of alludes to the memra.
Yes.
When he uses the logos as
well, they're guessing. I have no evidence for that at all.
Right. Actually, we don't have a confession from John saying he was using the Targums.
No. And the Targums, of course, are written later, aren't they too? So why would they be using the memra? I don't understand that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So it's good stuff. We have a textual criticism.
Yes.
We have a textual issue here.
Yes.
With John 1:18.
Yes.
Monogenes theos, monogenes huas.
Yes, well, it's, as you know, very questionable which is right there. And if you have monogenes theos, one of the leading Trinitarian grammarians says that would be the highest form of created being. If you call somebody monogenes, you're saying he's a begotten, brought into existence person. So God could not be. The closest you'd get there would be to Arianism, if you like, the highest form of created being. So it doesn't help you at all. The fact you've got monogenes simply means unique God. It's so strange, and it only comes from one area of the tradition. So why would I take that on board when it would contradict, as you rightly said earlier, the Shema and everything else?
Right.
Honestly, I don't think I would bother. And most translations don't insist on that, as you know.
Right. So monogenes huas would line up with John's theology.
Totally. Absolutely. Right. Monogenesios, of course, the unique son. He's a unique son, but why? Because he was begotten in the womb of Mary uniquely. He's not just a man, heaven forbid, whatever that means. Right. He's a totally unique man because he has no human father. And so he gets the bloodline from David through Mary, obviously his mother.
Right. So how do they get around that the God or Yahweh was begotten? I saw your debate. I saw your debate with Pastor. His name slips my mind, but he's a pastor.
Long time ago or recently?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, one in California was very noisy. We were outside. It could have been that one. I've forgotten now. In fact, when you get to my age, you'll find out in a long, long time, you have to go back and read what you've written yourself because you can't remember it all. So I'm not sure exactly, but
Anthony Burgos. Anthony Burgos.
Yep. Yes, Anthony Burgos. Yes, I do. Yes. I do remember that. Yes.
Yes, he tried to explain that that he would accept the monogenes theos rendition, but and he tried to explain. I couldn't understand it. It didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
But
yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
Yeah. So no issues there. Monogenes son sounds much better. All right.
Well, it does. Yes. I mean, what is a unique God? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
See, most of this language, as Andrews Norton at Harvard long time ago said in a very good book called Reasons for Not Believing the Teachings of the Trinitarians, Andrews Norton, Norton, he said that Orthodox Christology is the field of words without meaning. Right. It doesn't make any sense to say that this is Yahweh, this one is Yahweh, and this one is Yahweh. It makes one Yahweh. Well, your child of two knows that's not true. So unless you allow yourself to destroy language, and let's note what we're doing now currently in the West here, we're destroying the difference in male and female. Long ago, the church destroyed the meaning of one. And H. Newman said, the Trinity is best described by saying that two things are one, or was it one thing or two? Well, to me, that's just nonsense. Why would we need that sort of model? I don't get it. It's too difficult for me.
Absolutely. So
I'm preaching to converted here. I mean, at this point, you understand. We understand in common.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Anthony, I was asked about the 2 powers in heaven
Yes.
controversy.
Yeah.
And I was asked, was it a fringe idea or was
Yes.
it a universally accepted idea among
Yeah.
the well, I would say Second Temple. I'm going to restrict it to the Second Temple because they say it's a Second Temple theology.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on the history of that, but I would say, without researching it, immediately, it was certainly never accepted by standard rabbinic teaching at all. No, it sounds very odd, and doesn't get you to a Trinity anyway. You'd only have 2 out of 3, wouldn't you?
Right. So that would be binitarianism, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So they would so they tried to equate that with John's theology, that he was familiar with it, but it's like you said, we don't see any evidence that John.
I don't see any evidence for that. It's too difficult, really. But I admit to being rather dismissive at my age, because I've seen these arguments now for 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, you say, if it's that difficult, how come Jesus was talking to fishermen and farmers and never had to raise any of these issues? One of the ways to get to your Trinitarian friends is to say this: all right, do you believe in the eternal generation of the Son? What does that mean? They don't really know, but they say that Jesus, officially they say, Jesus had a beginningless beginning. I hope that's clear to you. Origen says, today I've begotten you. And Origen says the word today doesn't mean today. When God says today, he means timelessness. Well, I'm in a madhouse there. And part of my joy at coming on your program is that you don't want to have nonsense in your head. It's not doing you any good, even physically.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the one idea of God being God and Jesus being the human Messiah is a glorious, in my opinion, freedom from the tangle of difficult arguments involved in Trinitarianism. That's why preachers don't preach on it. They don't preach on it.
Right.
Why not? If it's the most important thing ever, why don't they preach on it? They don't. They don't want to.
Right. I grew up Baptist. Most of my life, and I never heard a peep of the Trinity. Now, it was a strong Christology within the church, but it never elevated to he was the Most High God, or he was Yahweh.
Why not? If that's the most important thing, if you're going to get excommunicated for not believing that, why don't they preach on it every Sunday?
Right. If it's so essential, right.
Good point.
Yeah. So this is a historical question. At the time of John, when he was writing his gospel.
Yeah.
Would he be writing, especially his prologue? Would he be responding to, let's say, proto-Gnosticism?
I think absolutely. Right. Exactly right, because Gnosticism needs to have a buffer between the distant God who's too far off and man who's too far off from God. So they say we must have an intermediary. Well, we do have the man Messiah in our system, but yes, Gnosticism turns one into two. Right. And so I'm sure that in the epistles of John, he says, be careful. Many antichrists are around who say that Jesus isn't really human. So now you tell your Trinitarian friends, in that system, if you're a Trinitarian, although they may not preach on it, officially you believe that Jesus is man, but not a man. Did you get that? Jesus is man, you're supposed to teach your children, but not a man.
Right.
That's self-defeating. Seems to me that's self-condemning. So try to show your Trinitarian friends what they actually believe, then perhaps they'll reject it.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
So the Gnostics, they had a strange belief that Jesus was only divine, and his human form was like sort of like an avatar, right?
That's right. It's not human. He's man, but not a man. That's dangerous. Because the test, as you know, the Johannine test in the epistles is you must say that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, human being. That's the glory of God's work through the Messiah. So very, very important. Yes.
Right. Okay. We have another textual issue here.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know all versions before the King James were majority translated the logos as it, right?
Yes. Many.
And after after the King James,
yes,
it sort of deviated from that translation.
They did.
Would that have something to do with the Protestant Reformation?
Yes, I think absolutely. They're trying to reinforce orthodoxy, and you're absolutely right. The King James brings in the word was a him rather than it. Most of the translations, I've got at my site, Focus on the Kingdom, 50 translations of John 1:1, which didn't have him. They all had it. Worth looking at. 50 different translations. So it's complete nonsense to say that you must say the word was a him. And as I said at the start here, current experts are with us, not to mention names like Sir Isaac Newton, John Locke, John Milton, Andrews Norton. I've got a whole chapter on them in my Jesus Was Not a Trinitarian. Most of the really distinguished commentators are fully aware, although they may not be saying it too loudly because it's a bit embarrassing, but F.F. Bruce, you might have heard of him, who died recently. He wrote private letters to me in which he said, and I quote, F.F. Bruce said, and I'm not ashamed to use his words, he's now passed, he's dead, but he's still speaking through the letters he wrote to me. He said, I don't think Paul, this is F.F. Bruce, I don't think Paul believed in the pre-existent Son. Now, maybe John did, but I don't think Paul did, really. I've got that evidence.
Right.
Encouraging for you, right?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I thought F.S. Bruce, he's he's held to a high standard in the evangelical.
Oh yeah, he's very fine. He was the bright boy from the Plymouth Brethren, really, very, very sharp. He wrote wonderful stuff, but he took an interest in what I was doing way back, about 40, 50 years back, and was generous enough and kind enough to write handwritten letters to me where I posed some of these questions to him. So I'm using them now in evidence because I think he would rejoice. I believe him to be dead now, not conscious, but I think he would rejoice in knowing that his information is out there.
Right. Interesting. So what do you what do you think the translators were doing before the King James when they translated the Logos as a it? Do you think they were being faithful to the grammar, or they didn't know what they were doing?
I know. I think the grammatically, there's no reason suddenly to say the word is him or he. I don't know exactly what was in their minds. That would be interesting to know. The Revised Version, I've forgotten, does 1881, does the Revised Version still have it, or does it have him? I've forgotten without looking that up today. But the pressure of orthodoxy is very great, as you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then you were a Baptist. Let me tease you for a second. If you're a Baptist, you were told that you shouldn't have a drop of alcohol ever, lest you be tortured forever in hellfire, right?
Exactly. Yes.
That was a little extreme too, wasn't it? Poor old Jesus, who turned 120 gallons of water into wine. He really didn't make the standard at all.
Right. I never grew up around alcoholics at all. And,
good.
And it was.
I didn't either.
Right. Right.
But I do know that enos in Greek means wine. It doesn't mean grape juice.
Right.
That much I know. I'll die for that belief.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So here's a text. This is also a go-to text.
Yes.
For the opposition.
Yes.
And this is a text that some biblical Unitarians kind of don't agree on, but I guess we agree on the same. We have the same ultimate goals to uphold the monarchy of the Father. But John 20:28. The seeing and believing. If we accept that, let's say for instance, because I don't accept this interpretation. But if we accept that John was using a direct address to Jesus, would it be plausible to say that he was addressing Jesus, but he had the Father? He was acknowledging the Father because he dwells inside of Jesus.
I think that idea is right. If you go back to the 14th chapter, Jesus himself says to Philip, and Philip was there in that conversation too. And he says, have I been with you so long and you don't recognize, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father? We know what that means. The Father is reflected in Jesus, who is in the Father. Jesus was Christ in the Father. That's quite clear. So the sequel to that then, in other words, Thomas's failure to understand that in chapter 14 is remedied in the verse that you're quoting, 20:28, finally Thomas gets it. He says, "My Lord," now that's my Lord Messiah, "and my God, I see God in you, which I didn't see before." So I think you're not disagreeing really on that at all.
Right.
That's the way I would see that. But then he goes on to say, this whole book has been written to prove that Jesus is the Messiah. Isn't that amazing? Exactly. It wasn't to prove that Jesus is God.
Right. It's sort of like a setback. A disappointing statement if he said he was God.
That's right.
Verse 28 turns around and says he was the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
Which, some Trinitarians see that as synonymous terms, Son of God and being God. But
well, no, that doesn't make sense. Of course, we haven't talked about the begetting of the Son. Matthew 1:20 says that the Son was brought into existence. Yanao in Greek means to bring into existence. That's not possible for God. So what happened in the womb of Mary was the begetting, the bringing into existence, Luke 1:35. For that reason precisely, in Greek, theoke, for that reason precisely, he'll be called the Son of God. Luke was a very meticulous doctor, historian, and he never, ever hinted at a pre-existent son at any point.
Interesting. Now,
yes, it is.
I would say it was sort of like what you were saying. You go back to chapter 14.
Yes.
When you read the very first verse, this is like the backdrop.
Yes.
To well the put. That
well
John
put.
had with Thomas. Yep. He says that Jesus give him an ultimatum.
Yep.
That you must believe on him and you must believe in his God.
Absolutely.
So there's two objects of belief right there.
Right.
So when you get to the proclamation, the quote unquote statement, I believe that Thomas was kind of affirming what Jesus told him in chapter 14.
Yes.
That you are my God. I mean, I'm sorry, you
that's
are
right.
my Lord. And
absolutely.
My God. So
I think that's right. No, I think that's the best way to go with that. I really do. Very nicely done.
So when I look at that that conjunction, I don't see it as a what you would say connective conjunction.
No.
Right. So I see it as it's like an additive conjunction. So
why not?
It adds on another idea on top of the original.
Absolutely. Idea. Well, and you have actually extra information there because you've got a repeated article.
Right. Yeah.
You've got Artheos and Okedios. You've got a repetition of the article, which strengthens your point there.
Right.
Two
so
different
how would the that's an interesting statement you just made.
Yeah.
So how would the people who subscribe to the Gransville short handle that text?
Well, they really can't because it doesn't work, and that rule is not infallible, I think. But you've got certainly a repeated article there, which strongly suggests that, as you earlier said, those two nouns should be taken distinctly and separately.
Right.
That helps you out, doesn't it?
Oh yes. They the best the only explanation I heard was the context clearly says that Thomas was speaking to Jesus, and I would agree with that. Okay, Jesus was right there in front of him. God the Father is in heaven, so he can't be speaking directly to the Father.
But he can see God in Jesus. Exactly. God was in Christ. That's wonderful, beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good.
All right, that's good. Good.
Yeah.
Now we got the text that supposedly shows that John saw Yahweh's glory.
Yes.
And John, I think chapter 12, verse 41.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
Would that text be best explained? Not from Isaiah 6:1, but Isaiah 52 and 53 about the suffering servant.
Absolutely right. Yeah, and that gives me my favorite topic there. In Isaiah, as you know, what was seen by Isaiah was Adonai. I saw Adonai sitting in heaven. And let me tell your audience, I wish we had time to to develop this fully, but the word Adonai never means other than God. Mm-hmm. So if John is saying there that the one at the right hand of the Father there, or one in heaven was Adonai, which it is, it couldn't be Jesus, because Jesus is never Adonai, he's always Adoni. And I know this sounds a little technical, but it really isn't. I'd love your audience to get this clear. All 195 times you find the expression Adoni, my Lord, with a little L, it never means God. 195 times. 450 times you can have Adonai, which, as you well know, means the Lord God. So you have 450 plus 195 times. That is roughly 604, in fact, entirely 645 opportunities to see the difference.
Right.
Isn't that beautiful? So Psalm 110:1, I recommend you use that all the time. That's the governing psalm, the umbrella psalm, where Jesus carefully said that David had predicted that Jesus, the Messiah, would be sitting as Adoni, not Adonai. The capital L on that second Lord in most of your translations is false and misleading. It should be my little L-O-R-D. And many translations get it right, but that will change the world.
Exactly.
Isn't that marvelous? I think that's very interesting.
Now, I've seen the pushback. I saw your debate with Dr. James White.
Yeah.
And actually, Anthony, the pastor Burgos.
Yes.
They tried
Burgos,
to,
yes.
they tried to maneuver around it and blame you for, I guess, I guess seeing the vowel pointing as inspired, but I don't think that was your argument.
That's what they tried. But then, okay, my point then is this, and I didn't have it right when I had the debate with James White years ago. I wasn't prepared for this, but I've just made my point. You've got 645 opportunities of looking at the difference between the two. It's perfectly obvious that when you're talking about Abraham or Isaac or let's say Esau, you call him my Lord, or the king, Adoni HaMelech. You call him Adoni. You can look at all those examples. So you're going to have to say, all right, the whole system is corrupt. Those rabbis tried to confuse you 645 times. That's a bit beyond what was. You see the point? I wasn't ready for that. So it's quite clear that the rabbis and the best Bible dictionaries, by the way, understand this perfectly well, that they carefully tell you who is Lord and who isn't Lord, right?
Right.
Little L, Adoni, Adoni, Adoni. Your children need to learn to say it, not Adonai, which is the Lord God.
Right.
That will change the world one day. People will say, my goodness, weren't we just a touch slow?
Right. So the prefix is a major difference.
Absolutely. It's the same word Adon, but Adoni has been chosen to be non-deity all 195 times. You can look them all up. We've got them all listed at our site. You can go through them all. Exactly. That's very important. They were keen. Those rabbis had the sense to tell you, don't get God muddled up. You need to worship the one God through the Messiah, but let's not confuse the two. So Jesus silenced, do you remember, all his questioners by reciting Psalm 110:1. Tell your friends out there, change the world with that Psalm 110:1.
110:1, yes. That's the I guess that's the most cited verse in the New Testament.
Totally.
Yes.
It's a John 3:16. You know, you talk to Christians in America, everybody knows John 3:16, but nobody could tell you about Psalm 110:1.
Right, exactly. And you know, in the only thing the only conclusion I can come up with is they're complaining about vowel pointing as if it was like sort of like a sinister move.
Absolutely.
Against Trinitarian.
Absolutely.
But I don't think that's the case. I think they were just relaying the way you pronounce words.
Yes.
From how it was handed down to them, so you won't be struggling, because you know Hebrew kind of faded out for a while.
Yep.
And I guess they added the vowel point system to kind of bring it back.
Well, they had to, because you cannot read anything without vowels. You know that. People don't understand this. You can read nothing in any language without vowels. So what they heard in the synagogue week after week after week, they knew. And so those rabbis meticulously pointed along the lines of what they knew it was read in the synagogue. That's not too difficult. In fact, it's very easy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was for my 10 major questions I had.
Yes.
And
Well,
actually,
thank you.
And actually,
Thank you.
those questions were actually questions I struggled with for the longest.
Yes.
Until you have to kind of study these things, and I studied day and night. I kind of struggled, but it wasn't like I was trying to find a way around
the
truth. But finally, I think God opened my eyes and He gave me better understanding of those texts I struggled with.
Wonderful.
And I'm glad that you came on and gave some kind of clarification, not only for me but for the audience, because like I said before, the audience that we deal with, they're not familiar with it. They just know that they get kind of I don't know, I forgot the word I want to say, but they kind of get like bamboozled with Trinitarianism. And they kind of get blamed and they kind of get damned to hell.
Oh yes. Well, that Jesus did too. They crucified him. They didn't like him at all, and it was the church that didn't like him. It wasn't the ordinary people. But you can say this. Let me suggest this to your audience. How do you pre-exist yourself? What does that even mean? How can you be older than your own grandfather? I don't think that's possible. These are common sense arguments. You cannot be older than yourself. So to say that you pre-exist yourself actually doesn't make any sense to anybody of any age. It's an impossibility. Second major point, Matthew, Mark, and Luke have nothing whatsoever that might suggest a pre-existence. So you mean they didn't get that? Only John got it? That is very strange, isn't it? So why are they concentrating on John all the time? That's very dangerous to me.
Right. At least if you want it, and Mark is I guess it's widely accepted as the first gospel.
Yes.
He doesn't mention it.
No way.
And we kind of have to believe that John sort of brings it up and he talks about something different, and Paul brings it up.
Very strange.
Yeah, it's very strange.
No. One day.
Those were my questions, man. And
well, thank you. I'm very honored. I'll be interested to see what sort of feedback you get from your audience. We didn't mention the gospel of the kingdom, but that's equally important. When you say gospel, you need to say gospel of the kingdom, because nobody knows what the gospel is. Clearly, they don't sound like Jesus. That's my other major point, right?
Exactly. If I don't know if Brother Sam wants to. We have a question he wanted to kind of pick your brain.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, we have a question from the audience, the viewers. I am opening up the panel. So for you guys that have questions, we don't want to worry Sir Anthony too much. So you guys come on. I put the link out there in the chat.
Good.
And
good
so you guys can come on and ask your questions. We'll do maybe about 20 minutes. And you guys are free to join the panel. But we had one question. I don't see Brother Christian in the room. I did ask him if he wanted to come on. I think he did, but I don't see him. Are you there, Brother Christian? Okay. All right. So his question was in regards to, for the interest of time, his question was in regards to John 17 and 5.
Yes. Yes.
The neutralizer.
To expound on that in light of the traditional interpretation, which we would call eisegesis, but he had a question in regards to John 17 and 5.
Yes, well, as your friend just nicely said, that's supposed to be the neutralizer of a very clear statement about the one true God. The answer is right there in that chapter in verses 22 and verse 24. Jesus is praying. He's saying, I, Jesus, have given the glory that God has given me. I've already given it to Sam, who wasn't even born then. That's in verse 22 and verse 24 of 17th chapter. That's very clear. It's glory in prospect. I have given it. He hadn't. You weren't even born when Jesus said that.
Right. And here's an interesting interpretation I heard. Actually, I heard this from a scholar.
Yep.
He used the verb doxazon. I guess that's the glory.
Yes.
And he said it's in an imperative mode. So we know that the imperative mode means can sometimes means command or demand. So I took it as he was saying that Christ was demanding the Father his glory back, showing that Christ had some kind of authority in heaven.
Well, there's no back there. There's nothing about back. Not give me back the glory I had. Give me, not give me back. That's the same as the NIV. It has it Jesus returning to the Father. Those are simply mistakes in popular Bibles. No, give me, not give me back, but give me the glory which I have already given to Christians who aren't born yet. That's glory in prospect and plan.
Exactly. And you know, I did a further study on that in the imperative mode. It not only does it mean demand or command, it can mean request or desire.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So we know that the text is in the form of a prayer. Yeah. And you don't make demands in the prayer.
Right.
Right. And we can't see that Jesus bossing his daddy around.
No, of course not.
Demanding his glory back.
No.
Right.
Yeah. As long as you leave out the back, it's very good. Leave out the back and certainly not returning. The NIV misleads people totally in 3 verses in John by saying that Jesus is going back to the Father. That's just simply not there in the Greek at all.
Exactly.
Okay.
Awesome. Brother Christian, did you have another question, bro?
Hey, I did. What's up, everybody? Peace to everybody on the panel. Mr. Buzzard. How's it going, man? I got put on to you by a brother named Ron Shields, and I kind of saw some of your debates with Michael Brown, James White, and it was very pertinent during the season of life that I was in, because I was kind of going through the ring of fire with people kind of calling me heretic and whatnot. But
yes,
it is what it is. It was for the better. But I just had a question, super brief, just 2 scriptures.
Yeah.
So the one y'all kind of briefly went over, but I don't think you guys kind of walked through it. That was the John, or hey guys, that was the John 17:5. So I was curious about what the explanation was, or kind of.
Yeah.
And I think you guys were talking about it just right now. I might have missed it.
We were. No, the answer is in verses 22 and 24. The glory in question there is glory that he'd given to you, and you weren't even born. I have given the same glory to Sam, who wasn't born when Jesus was speaking. I've given it, Jesus said, past tense. He'd given it as a promise. It's glory in promise and prospect, but not actually.
Okay.
That's the best way we can deal with that one.
Right. It's sort of like the statement in Revelation. We have the Lamb being slain before the foundation of the world.
Good point.
Right.
Yep. Well, your little one you're holding there understands that. I bet she does. Your daughter you're holding. Yes, she understands that 1 means 1.
Not yet. She's only 1 herself. So.
Well, when she gets to be 2, she'll know how much 2 means.
Exactly.
Good.
So my last question was just, I'm sure this is another one that comes up a lot, was just Colossians, 1:15.
Yep.
Where it talks about I can't pull it up in front of me, but the Son who created all things and everything was for him and all of that. So just kind of like just making sense of like, okay, how do I reconcile what this is saying?
Yeah.
In light of this worldview. So
all right, we can deal with that very quickly. There are 2 verses there, or 2 statements about creation in Colossians 1:16. The first one says that everything was created by the Father, by God. It's a divine passive. Everything was created. That's an aorist tense, meaning a single event in the past. And the next verse says, all things are now being created through the Son. So the creation and the new creation is through the Son. There's a verb change there. We've written all this up in our books too. But the first one is a divine passive. God created everything because of Jesus. There you go. N. The preposition N The experts take that to be a causal one. Because of Jesus, God created everything. Got it. And now in the new creation, everything is being created through Jesus in the new creation. That's helpful. That's Nigel Turner in his grammatical insights. All the references in our books. But that's a great question. Wonderful.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's it. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for your time. Sam, keep killing it. Brother Vinny, appreciate all y'all, man.
Thanks. You. Bye.
All right. We have another question
in
regards to the book of Bereshith, Genesis 19 and 24.
Oh, yeah. I shouldn't smile, but that's supposed to be Yahweh or Yehovah. By the way, they have recently found that, as you know, Nehemiah Gordon has dug up a whole lot of manuscripts where the pronunciation is Yehovah. It doesn't matter to me because in the Greek text of the New Testament, they don't make any issue out of that. But let's suppose Yehovah rained brimstone from Yehovah. And some of the early church fathers said, there you go, 2 Yehovahs. Well, you quickly go to 1 Kings, where it says that Solomon gathered to Solomon all the people. That's 2 Solomons. Absolutely. I think it's 1 Kings 8:6. I'm not sure. You'd have to look it up. But Solomon gathered the people to Solomon.
Yeah, so
you 2 Solomons?
Right, you would have 2 Yahwehs if you want to interpret that.
Yes, but let me add this. Nobody at any level of respectable scholarship would imagine that now, today.
Right.
Justin Martyr did, but nobody in serious scholarly, and you guys are well-read, well-studied, nobody today would even venture 1924 as a proof text.
Right, and actually, Justin Martyr was the first one to sort of allude to that text as a Trinitarian text, right?
Well, he's the first one to go into pre-existence. He's really an Arian.
Right.
But you're right. Absolutely. That's where it begins to go wrong. He's a professional philosopher by trade. And he's the first one who sort of ventures to push Jesus back behind his birth, which for me makes Jesus non-human. You cannot pre-exist yourself, I don't think.
Exactly.
Right. Absolutely. One final question here in regards to the pre-literary Christological traditions that we find in the text. Can you talk about that? Bart Ehrman mentions it in his writings.
Orthodox Corruption of Scripture. That book?
Yes. I believe it's that one. As a matter of fact, no, I think it's how Jesus became God. I think.
Oh yes, that's Rubinstein. That's Richard Rubin, or When Jesus Became God. Rubinstein. That right? That man.
Actually, it's Bart Ehrman.
Okay.
How Jesus became God, and he mentions the pre-literary Christological traditions, like what we find in the book of Romans, in the book of Acts, with Peter's message talking about. He calls it. I think he terms it exaltation Christology or exaltation theology.
Yeah. Well, that's not a problem because we know when he's exalted is at the right hand of the Father, and he's constantly called Adoni. And we know, and I hope your audience will all search this out, that Adoni never means deity. You cannot have God sitting at the right hand of God. And here's the most basic question for all of your audience. If you say Jesus died, you're saying that Jesus isn't God. Because you should know that God cannot die. He's immortal. The Son of God died, Paul said.
Absolutely.
Therefore, Jesus could not be God. That's a very sort of sleep-inducing, restful argument to settle your mind.
Right, and here's a dilemma that I think puts the Trinitarians in a sort of a funk here.
Yeah.
So if they say that only the human side of Jesus died, I think that would go against that theology as well, because they tell you that no man can die for your sins.
That's right. Now, you immediately should say, I suggest you should say, all right, what is the term in the New Testament which describes the God part of Jesus? And what is the term which describes the non-God part? Right. Pin them down. And if they say, well, the Son of God is the human part, you immediately say, how did Paul say The Son of God died. The death of his Son. Pin them down. Make them be precise, and I think they'll find that isn't going to work.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, would you like to take one more?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. It's on your screen.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It says, how about the placement of the negative particle uk in, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
That's fine. Good.
In Philippians 2:6. How difficult is the Greek there? Yes, sir.
Well, I don't think it's difficult at all. I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to. He was in the form of God. That's what it means. But he took the form of a slave. It's a question of role. It's a question of status. As you know, man was made in the status of God, in the role of God. We are images of God. God has got himself stamped on us. Jesus was supremely elevated as the man who's going to rule the world, the chief man. But he didn't use that to his own advantage, but rather he washed the dishes and washed their feet. That's very easy. So it's a question of role and status. Nothing remotely to do with being before you are, or pre-existing, whatever that means.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Quick. Here, I got an article about a guy named Joseph Hellerman. He's a Trinitarian. He I guess he fights for the status and role interpretation.
Good. Good. Thank you.
I'll put a link to it in the.
Thank you.
Yeah, in the comment section.
Right. James Dunn also. James Dunn also is totally with us on that point.
Right.
So that's good. Yeah,
now
that's good. That's good.
Before we started the broadcast, you were mentioning something that I heard you mention it in another video that I saw of you. You were mentioning James Dunn. I'm going through his book now. I can't think of the name of it. Christianity.
Christology in the making, probably.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. That's what it's called. Christology in the making.
Two editions.
Yes, sir. And you actually had mentioned that you've been in correspondence with him over, well, you were in correspondence with him over the years, and he actually, came around to our side, our paradigm, the Unitarian view.
Yes, partly in discussion with my notorious cousin, J.A.T. Robinson. Back in the 80s, James Dunn at that stage was saying, I don't believe, or he did believe in the pre-existence, but gradually he came around to your view, my view, and you will find that in the latest book that I think before he died, it's called Did the Early Christians Worship Jesus? That's a good read, a short little read. And in that book, he says, and I quote, Jesus in the New Testament is not Yahweh, not the God of Israel. Isn't that beautiful?
Wow. This is the first I've heard of that. I have to
You must please read that as a paperback. Did the early Christians worship Jesus? And he agrees with us. Well, I had some little hand in nudging him because I'm rather persistent with this. So, but my cousin also did. However, be careful with scholars, because scholars like my cousin J.A.T. Robinson didn't believe in the second coming of Jesus. So I'm afraid the public needs to know you're living in a chaos. You cannot, because a man has a PhD after his name, believe that he's going to be a believer. They're mostly not. They hate the kingdom of God gospel. Believe me. So that's another subject you're going to have to work very hard at.
Absolutely.
I suggest.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, we certainly appreciate you blessing us with your presence and taking time out of your schedule to come on. We are all fans of yours here.
Oh, you're very sweet. You're very sweet. You're very kind. I'm glad you're doing good work. May your site get millions and millions of viewers. Let's get a huge thing going here. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Well done. Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. All right. So we're gonna let Sir Anthony Buzzard get some rest.
Okay.
And did you want to close out, Brother Renzo?
No, I just want to say that just take heed to what we're saying. We're not asking you to believe everything we say.
No, good.
That's how I came to my view.
Good.
I kind of took an objective view instead of being indoctrinated.
Good. Well done.
Yeah, so just take heed to what we're saying. Go look up these things.
Yes.
Don't just subscribe to a doctrine just because you feel comfortable,
no.
Or just because it's tradition. And don't let anybody. I said this before. Don't let anybody be your religious police.
I like that. Religious police, right? Don't let them cancel you out if you don't agree. That's right.
So we know we have explicit instructions on who we should believe and how we should believe. We have logic in the Bible. We have simple math in the Bible with the use of personal pronouns.
Yes, good point.
Singular
Great
personal pronouns at that.
You got the top one.
Language that we use today. How we would describe one person. So just study, man, and
good quote there. Very good quote from Dunn. Throw those quotes out there massively. That's wonderful.
All right, sir. So what we're going to do, we're going to have, can you let the folk know where they can find all this good Unitarian teaching, your website, your YouTubes, and
absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Well, yes, my website is focusonthe.org. Focus on the Kingdom. We've got an embarrassing amount of stuff there. There's a good search engine. Any text you're looking at, masses of stuff written over the last 50 years, probably. So I've got a number of books. They're all at Amazon, and they're at that site. You'll see them. It's fairly accessible, our site, focusonthe.kingdom.org. I appreciate your assistance in getting stuff out there. It's wonderful. But it's all free. That's all free, apart from the book. We do have to sell the books. We don't make any money out of selling books, as you will probably know. But we do sell the books at Amazon, 7, 8 books. My favorite book that I wrote, I actually enjoy it myself, is called Our Fathers Who Aren't in Heaven.
I like it.
Check that one out. I think you'll like it.
Yes, sir. I have to get that one as well. For those of you guys that are out there, the link to his website should be in the description. If it's not, just let me know. But I believe I put that in the description, the link to the various websites, to the ministry. The name of the ministry is Restoration
Fellowship. Fellowship.org. You can write to me. My email is anthonybuzzard@mindspring. If somebody out there listening today wants to send me an email, that would be wonderful. anthonybuzzard, all one word, @mindspring.com.
anthonybuzzard@mindspring,
M-I-N-D.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you guys. I would keep if you guys, if I don't cut it off now, we will we will be here all night asking more questions, because I am just elated to have
thank you. Very kind. I'm excited about your excitement. I am excited about your excitement. Believe me, I am. Okay.
Yes, sir. So we're not going to belabor the point. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in, that did tune in, all of you guys that will tune in. Please don't forget to like the video, if you will. That helps us get this message, Unitarian message, out there. We have an uphill battle to climb, because we're going against the prevailing view and the traditional view. So your support would be greatly appreciated in liking the video, so that YouTube can promote it even more. Share the video. Make sure you make yourself and avail yourself of all the awesome resources that Sir Anthony Buzzard has. He's graced us with his time here. Go out and purchase those books. I have about 2 of them I have to go through myself. So I'm in Christology in the making. I think I'm in number 2, because I think he has 3 parts to that. Two editions of Christology in the making. Yeah, his latest book I'm going to recommend to you. Did the earliest Christians worship Jesus? James Dunn. Did the earliest Christians worship Jesus? James Dunn. Excellent read. You'll really love that one. Absolutely. I should have that one by tomorrow. You must. Good. Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir. Well, we're going to go ahead and sign off. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in. We certainly appreciate and, are humbled by the presence of Sir Anthony Buzzard. And
researchers.
Yes, sir. Also, Carlos, Xavier, for making this possible. Brother Renzo there, putting this all together. My brother there, and Brother Carlos Xavier that was on last week. We appreciate you too, bro. I'm sorry that you couldn't join us on the panel here today, but we appreciate all of you guys, and we're going to say peace.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.